What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own Fantasy Football Huddle, presented as always by Danklyfe brand, Let's Talk Sports, and Shank It Golf brand. This week was one hell of a week in fantasy football and in the NFL, and there was a lot of things to go over. If you missed our NFL Sunday kickoff, don't worry, we have another one coming this week, 9:30 Mountain Standard Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in and ask all your questions that you want on your lineup, trade advice, waiver wire, stardom and sit-ems, and we help you win some money as a part of the High Roller Huddle and get some bets in there as well. So make sure you're tuning into that live on Sundays. And if you haven't yet and you're new to the channel, subscribe to the content and hit that notifications bell so you know whenever we come out with new content. Today, we're discussing those waiver wires. It's Tuesday. We are, of course, before going to bed tonight, you're going to be putting those waivers in, hoping to see those new players on your team. Today, we're going to be discussing some of those players that we're going to be looking to add to our roster. We're also going to be making some changes to the way that we do a couple of things around here. Our waiver wires from here on out after this week are going to start including players that you can drop off your roster safely as well, players that we're absolutely done on. And we also got a comment on one of our videos last week, one of our stardom and sit-em videos last week, asking us to cover more players. So I'm going to try to go matchup by matchup when it comes to the stardoms and sit-ems, so make sure you're tuning in. But without further ado, let's fill up our cups, roll something up, and get right into the week 5 waiver wire pickups that you must have because they have flex appeal. We're going to start out with wide receiver Jameson Williams from Detroit. He's owned in 25% of leagues. His suspension was shortened. They appealed his suspension. It was a shortened suspension, and he's eligible to return to the field this week. Josh Reynolds is the overall wide receiver 27 right now in fantasy football, and he's averaging over 15 points per game in a PPR format. This is going to be Jameson Williams' role now that his suspension has been reduced. You want to be patient on Jameson Williams. He may not be a person that you plug into your lineup this week, but he does have league-winning potential with his athleticism and how good this offense is in Detroit right now. Moving on, we're going to be talking about running back Jaleel McLaughlin. Of course, Samaje Perine would be a great addition. However, he's owned in over 50% of leagues, and we like to talk about people that are owned in less than 50% of leagues when it comes to our waiver wire pickups. But Jaleel McLaughlin from Denver is owned in less than 1% of leagues right now. Last week, Javonte Williams left with an unfortunate hip injury, and he's not expected to miss much time. However, you're looking at Jaleel McLaughlin getting 10 touches last week. He led the running backs after Javonte Williams left, and he got 104 yards out of that 10 touches and added on a receiving touchdown as well. I definitely am going to be adding Jaleel McLaughlin, especially in the leagues that I'm in a pinch in, as I wait for some of these injuries to kind of clear up and be able to start some of my players that I drafted. Moving on to the tight ends, we're talking about Logan Thomas from the Washington Commanders, owned in 6% of leagues right now. He's the number 8 overall tight end in standard formats in points per game and the number 10 tight end in PPR. And he missed a game and a half with a concussion. When he is on the field, he's getting elite usage in this surprisingly good Washington Commanders offense. So add Logan Thomas to your roster. Before we round off this video, I do want to give you guys a couple of bonus additions to your roster. People I actually talked about last week. Josh Palmer from the Chargers and CJ Stroud, quarterback from the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud owned in 32% of leagues, Josh Palmer in 47%. Both of these players need to be added on your roster and will be rostered in 90% of leagues moving forward. So jump ahead while you can and get that valuable quarterback, get that valuable wide receiver that we've already discussed on the roster. And if you missed it, watch last week's video and see why you want to add them to your roster, because you still want to add them. Finishing off with the last two players, wide receiver Romeo Doubs from Green Bay, owned in 34% of leagues. Last week had a career high in targets with 13, a career high in receptions with 9, and a career high in yards. Christian Watson was actually active last week, and he was able to do all that Right now, Romeo Doubs is the number 15 wide receiver in the league. Add him to your roster. Last player we're talking about today is going to be running back Chuba Hubbard. We've talked about him before, from the Carolina Panthers, owned in 18% of leagues. Miles Sanders did suffer a groin injury last week. Yet to see if he's going to miss any actual time from it or not. But you already look at Chuba Hubbard having an established role in this offense. And even if Miles Sanders doesn't miss much time, you have to wonder if they're going to put him in a limited role and increase this already established role that Chuba Hubbard has. And if Miles Sanders does miss time, Chuba Hubbard is looking at a ton of volume in Sanders' absence. That's going to be it for today's waiver wire episodes. Add these players, put them on your roster tonight, and wake up in the morning and be happy with the new additions that you got. Make sure you tune into our stardoms and situms and some trade targets that we have going on this week as well. And I will see y'all in the next video. Keep your chin up and your attitude down. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Bye.